Welcome to the If You Know You Grow podcast. My name is Chantel Brayley, and I am going to be your host for the next however many minutes. This podcast has been created to help bring you behind the scenes of some incredible brands, hear some incredible stories, and make it so that it is no longer an if you know industry, because now it is all about if you know, you grow. Hello, everybody. We are back in a little bit of a lo-fi situation. As everybody knows by now, if you heard the last episode, I have leased my first ever commercial space, which is basically going to be a space where I do the potty recordings. It will also be available for potty recording hire. It'll be available as a co-working space. It will be a great space for like founder-led content or non-e-commerce centric content. I thought about leasing something bigger where you could do e-com photography because that was something that I was looking at a couple years ago when I almost took over a business from someone. But I realized that that aspect doesn't actually give me any joy, so I didn't want that responsibility. It's also going to be a really beautiful place to host events. So I'm really excited to start doing that next year, both for myself, but also in allowing others to do that, whether it is a pop-up shop or, a sound healing or just something that's a little bit collaborative. I still don't have a name for the space, which is really tough because I'm stuck on the fact that I want it to be like a singular word. So I had a friend completely external to the industry who was like, oh, I know someone who has a company, and instead of calling it, XY, they just called it one singular word. And I like the power in that. And it was a word that was like an action. So the example was the company was called Collaborative. It wasn't called, collaborative what the company did. It was just collaborative. And that actually held a lot of space. And I love that because I love the simplicity in that. I also have no interest in it being called studio because it's not really a photo studio. I'm not an agency. I have no interest in becoming an agency. So it's kind of weird because it's a multifunctional place for where I currently am in life. And I don't know what this is going to look like, but we're probably hopefully about 2 to 3 weeks out from being able to utilize this. So with that, I am so excited to announce that I am going to be holding a season wrap party on the 6th of December, which is a Saturday, at this event space. This will be the first formal event that we do there, and it's called Out of Office. Why is it called Out of Office? Because this is going to be, yes, a little bit of a party and a little bit of a celebration, but I really want to create more moments where we can get out of office and just chat about the things that matter, because we all spend so much time in, I don't even want to call it our 9 to 5, but in our every single day. And I'm excited to do something a little bit different. So if you go on my website, which is chantelbrayley.com, you'll be able to go to an event space where you can register your interest. There's also a quick access link via my link in bio, or If You Know You Grow's link in bio. So both are really great options. So before we jump into today, if you are watching this on video, and I know, most people are listening to this not watching it on video because it is me like talking at you for however long. I do not have a new chest tattoo. I'm actually wearing an Endorphix patch, which is the brand that Gemma Fox is actually a part of. So it's a nice little caffeine patch. And I've been liking it for the days where I feel like I've got a bulk of things to get through, but I maybe don't have the energy levels and I don't want to have another coffee. Between the impacts of caffeine and coffee to your gut health, and also the fact that I think that I'm a high energy person in general, I love this. I know they've had some TGA issues in Australia, which is really unfortunate. So they're not currently shipping, but I guess if you know the right person. No, I'm just kidding. I got these before the issues because the TGA just, I kind of find it really funny what they tend to allow and what they don't allow. Like, this is how sometimes people become uneducated as to what they're doing to themselves because regulations are so strict. It means that we like completely outlaw things that are actually safe. And look, I really feel like this is not what I need to get into because that is not the purpose of today's episode. But the purpose of today's episode is actually to go over some Black Friday, Cyber Monday tips. Now, I know that we are literally weeks, if not days, away from this. So I didn't want to give you the long-term strategy because at this point, the long-term strategy actually doesn't help. Doesn't make sense. If you are not already planning this from a product forecasting perspective, 5-6 months ago, we're definitely behind. And I know that I have people that listen who are sitting in brand new startup businesses, people who don't have businesses at all, and then people who have 8, sometimes 9-figure businesses. So I just wanted to give some quick wins and some perspectives of things that I am recommending and things that I endorse so that you just had a little bit more information. And I want you to think about how these things could possibly work in your business. But also, if you are a consumer and you're not in the marketing space, these are things that are strategically planned majority of the time. So, this period is generally going to be the biggest financial win you're going to have for the year in terms of overall revenue. There's a couple reasons for that. If you go back to the actual origins of Black Friday, it's because businesses used to often run in the red during this period because consumers were, a little bit tighter with their money. There was not a lot of profit coming through, and you would go from basically being in the red, so being in the negative in terms of profitability, towards shifting to being in the black because you saw this huge sales volume come through, and then hitting the green just in time for Christmas. And in North America, where this shopping holiday originates, ending your financial year in green, because in the US, the financial year goes from December to January, whereas Australia, you're going from July to June. So the placement is, very strategic to help engage shoppers during the biggest time of year for shopping behavior. With this comes the conversation of cash flow versus profit. So again, like this is Black Friday, Cyber Monday really only taking off in the last 20 years, possibly only the last 10 years effectively, because that's when people were actually shopping online. But there is cash flow and there's profit. And if you do not know the difference between the two, I highly recommend catching up with somebody who is fantastic with finances, somebody who actually has a background, whether this is a fractional CFO or this is, a very high level accountant who specializes in this. I have fantastic accountants at the Fenwick Collective. I work with Tegan directly, but also I have had amazing people in finance in my career, which is why I can speak to this so confidently. If you've never had a cash flow problem, you should automatically, literally just pat yourself on the back. That might mean that you've been running a little bit too conservatively to inspire growth, because cash flow is the physical money that you have available to spend in your business, that's sitting within your bank versus as well as money that's forecasted to come in because of projected sales volume or because of payment terms if you have wholesale arms of your business, versus cash that's going to go out. So this could be subscriptions, these could be agencies, retainers, etc. So that's cash flow. It's kind of the in and out of the business, and that is something that is different from the money that you are making every single day versus what you've spent to be able to make it. That is where profit sits. So profit is everything that you're spending versus everything that you're, bringing in. And the reason that they are two different conversations is because your cash flow is going to be so dependent on the cycle in which your business currently runs. You may have different payment terms between the people who are buying your product versus the people you are buying your product from, your employees. Those are all things that can impact cash flow. And your profitability is different. So I'm not going to be able to explain this in a way that will directly make sense with exact advice for your business, because again, I am not a financial advisor. But make sure that you know the difference, because this particular period, you could have an incredible cash flow opportunity and shit profitability because you haven't actually approached things as methodically as possible. And depending on where your business is, you may need the cash flow. It may not be about profit. There are so many brands that are actually having a really hard time this year. And often those brands that are having a hard time, it's because they have stopped being innovative and they're trying to use the exact same playbook that they built during COVID and during those COVID years. And also things were slower, but people were literally just sitting on their asses at home and shopping all day long. So there were no barriers to entry. The economy was very different. But also, particularly for brands that are very reliant on Australian businesses, no one was traveling. I think one huge impact that's really hit us all in the last couple of years, once COVID kind of slowed down, is Australians love to travel. And I think they love to travel more than most countries and most people. And so it was really nice because no one was doing the 3-4 week Europe holidays. So guess what? They were just spending money on other things. They were spending money on houses and on renovations and beauty products and stuff to go out in, because going out to dinner was the only exciting thing they could do. And then I think everybody's just been a little bit humbled because now that we can spend money on other things, user behavior and consumer behavior has changed. Other than the fact that we have had so much inflation and there is a cost of living crisis. That is not to be negative. It's just to be really realistic about what your current barriers to success are. So everybody who's had a rough year, it's because you're not doing things differently, and you need to do things differently. And I don't think there's ever been a point in my career. I was actually looking on my LinkedIn, and I am just a couple months shy from being 17 years in this industry. And let me tell you, not a single thing has changed. Shout out to my beauty team for making it not look like I have been here for 17 years in this industry. I don't mean like my makeup, because I'm probably wearing a little bit more than I should. My best friend, who is a makeup artist, has literally taken things away from me because I was all about the 2016 full beat era. And right now is not an appropriate time for a cut crease. But I did want a little bit of heavy eyeliner because I had too much time to get ready, because I was doing nothing today other than recording this podcast and doing a little bit of work on this beautiful Sunday. Gosh, sometimes I'm really bad at getting to the point, guys. Okay, back to what I was kind of talking about. The point of this was, if you've had a rough year, this may be a cash flow opportunity for you. This may not be a profit opportunity, and you're going to have to change your marketing depending on what that's going to look like. But if you are not in a cash flow situation and you are umming and ahhing about what to do, and you've had a slow October, if you are not in a situation to where you need to be desperate, please do not be desperate. Please just trust the process. And the reason I say that is because the question that I want to ask you about the offer that you're going to implement is, does your offer spark interest and drive conversions? Or does your offer help build long lifetime value for your brand and help with brand equity? And if I break that down, what I'm asking is, anytime you have a huge discount, you are going to have a great sales day. However, a customer that only purchases you at 40% to 50% off is not worth building a business on, because you have marketing that you are going to invest in the most expensive time of year to invest in marketing. And if your customer will only purchase at the 40 to 50% off, then that is not the long-term customer for you. Anybody who is currently feeling as though they are competing against Shein and Temu, you really need to rethink your demographics and who you are targeting, because that customer is not a customer that you are going to be able to build a profitable business on. If you cannot create value and create a point of difference, then you are constantly going to be chasing the cash flow, because you are not going to be able to drive profitability. When I ask whether or not your offer is building lifetime value and building brand equity, sometimes Black Friday, Cyber Monday can be a great time to acquire a new customer. One, because customers are primed and they're ready to shop, but also because it's a little bit easier to convert when you're not paying full price for something, especially if it's something that you've been umming and ahhing about. So in order to, get a customer that's going to have great lifetime value and also build brand equity, yes, you need to be strategic about your offer. Now, this needs to be an offer that adds value, that is very clearly communicated, and it also has to be an offer that has really great post-purchase touch points to ensure that your customer is having a great experience. There are lots of brands, which I will not name, because I'm not saying that this is horrible, because they're obviously having long-term growth, but I think that because their product is so cheap, they are one of the few people that can get away with it. There are brands that have such big Black Friday, Cyber Mondays that they basically can take 30 days to dispatch and just ignore everybody and give a really bad experience. But that customer is still going to come back, because of the fact that they know that they have really kind of owned a portion of the market where they are there on price, and there's not a whole lot of competition, and their customer isn't actually expecting great value from them. So it's okay that they've done that, even though it's a really, really shitty experience. I will not shop at those brands, but I'm also not their demographic. And these are often brands that I think are targeting like the, 12 to 16-year-old girl, maybe someone in her early 20s for a party, but like there's very low expectation, because the whole purpose is just to look hot. Like there's nothing deeper than that. These aren't multi-wear products. They might even not be purchased for like a specific reason, so they can get away with that. And when we talk about like building your brand equity, discounting is a really dangerous slope. I have been with brands that needed to break their customer from always wanting a discount, and it is tough. It is really hard to create interest. It's hard to drive value for your customer, and you literally have less money to spend on marketing and to grow your brand if you're cannibalizing your brand with a discount. So, if you feel that your discount is not driving brand equity and you do not want to be a discount brand, if you do not need to do it from a cash flow perspective, then it's a really great opportunity to just kind of like hold back. Don't go as deep. Offer something. Be creative in what you can offer. Be maybe shorter periods about where you want to offer. Like, there's going to be so much noise. Apparently the like average Black Friday Cyber Monday is going to start on the 28th of October. I personally don't know any brands that are starting that early. I think November 11th is where we're having like the earliest point of where I know brands that are starting. And then, my advice is always to build interest and excitement, but maybe don't start your offer until later in the season, and don't be afraid about like losing market share, because if you're building a brand, you're not going to necessarily lose market share as long as you're opting in some way, shape, or form. So now that we've discussed your offer, which is something that I think is like the most important thing, and it may not be something at this point that you can change. So this could be something where if you've been umming and ahhing about whether or not you're doing the right thing, maybe I've given you some clarity about which way to go. If not, send me a DM, send me a voicey, let's chat about it. The next thing is, how can you do something fun and exciting to quote unquote get people into your audiences or tracked by your pixel in the lead up to the event? So if you have not been audience building since August, then you're behind. And that's something that's just a very honest thing to say. However, there are ways, particularly when we're looking at shorter attribution windows, that you can do things that are quite exciting to help create interest and help get into people's faces. So fun and exciting is going to look different for every brand. Every brand will have a different view on what's fun and exciting. And I think the brands that aren't chaotic, you sometimes feel as though there's not a way or an opportunity to lead in. My favorite meta agency, The Social Lab, has shared so many different ways to help drive engagement. And I think it was great that everybody in their portfolio were able to, kind of get a view of like ways that you can generate excitement. And the brands were kind of given the opportunity to choose their own adventure with what they wanted to share. So hopefully Cam and Aaron don't mind that I share one of these, because like there's a couple that I'm implementing across the board. But, one really good thing that you could be doing is, how are you going to get people to either share their wish lists or to add to their wish list? Reason being is if they're sharing on their stories, or if they're sharing with other people, then they've gone on your website, they've interacted with products, and now you have more information to be able to retarget people through broad DPA ads, as well as even email flows. You can go back and you can say people who have clicked on these products, or people who have viewed these products, or people who have browse abandoned. You now have new audiences that you can target, and that's like something that's so small that you can action, but something that ultimately could actually really help you in the long term. I will not share the rest of their playbook on that, but I really loved that, like, aside from getting everybody ready with their creatives, they actually went and gave a lot of insight on, some great things that you could be doing as a brand. Because again, like, yes, you could be just a meta agency, but if you are reliant on one channel, then you are literally creating an uphill battle for yourself. Another thing that you could do is actually get your influencers to start teasing your sale. You could also get your influencers to start organically posting. So if you have a community or an ambassador group, it's a really great time to let them know about what's coming. Great ways that you can engage them could be contests for sharing content or for promoting content. So every time they feature you, give away some Visa gift cards, like do something to help engage them. And the thing is you may not have the bigger creators jump at this, because again, a $500 Visa gift card could mean nothing to them. But what you are doing is you still are having smaller creators sharing with their audiences what's happening in the lead up, and then also prompting them to then reshare during your sale offer. Anything that you can do from a cheaper organic side, like, you should definitely be doing this. You should also be, increasing your frequency during this period. Your engagement's going to drop. Full stop, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter. So your frequency needs to increase during this period, because consumers just get fatigued. Like, not only are we all going to be increasing our ad spend, but if we're increasing our frequency and there's noise, like, just do it. Like, you genuinely need to be increasing your organic social frequency with non-sale relevant content. The reason I say that is because the worst content on your feed in terms of engagement is going to be your sale content. It still needs to be there, it still needs to be clear, but what can you be sharing that helps drive interest, that still communicates your offer, that is not just sale content? When it comes to your spend as well, I would really encourage you to look at your meta spend overall. I'm going to say meta because I'm going to assume that anybody who's currently spending is spending 70 to 80% on meta exclusively, because as much as we are trying to build other channels, those channels, they're not really doing that much. TikTok is working really well for some brands in terms of the spend, but it's not working for everybody. So let's just be conscious of it. Let's be aware of it. With your meta spend, like, you should be ramping your spend if you are doing hype and if you are creating awareness, and your hype period shouldn't be lasting that long. Like, the minute that you start hyping your offer, your sales at full price are going to stop. So you need to make sure that not only is your spend ramping during that period to make sure that everybody knows about your hype and that you have a lead generation component where people are subscribing to be the first person to be notified, because again, this is about building audiences, but also you need to make sure that your spend is relative to that interest and that excitement that you can build. It's actually been really amazing as I've started to refine and perfect hype strategies. There have been some wins where in day one of sale, the results that come through are bigger in the first couple hours than they were during the entire period last year. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One is because consumers are waiting for a sale more than they have in previous years. Again, cost of living crisis / as an industry, we've trained people to expect sales. But two, there is no point in hyping something that isn't exciting, but fuck, if it's exciting, make sure you're hyping it. There is a lot to say. There's a lot to say there. The next quick win that I have for everybody is, have you set up your email flows to be sharp, direct, and ready to go? So during this period, every single automation needs to talk about the offer. It needs to be shorter and it needs to be more direct. Why? Because this is the only time that it matters. If you have an 8-step welcome flow, your offer may not even be able to run during that 8-step welcome flow. So how are you changing particularly your welcome series, your browse abandonment, and your cart abandonment to be really short and succinct and clear and remind people about the offer and create a sense of urgency? The stronger that you perform on your owned media channels, the less reliant you are going to be on your paid channels. And when we talk about an entire marketing funnel, this might seem straightforward, but I think that this is something that either people forget to do or they get really overwhelmed by the concept of it and it just becomes too hard. And it shouldn't become too hard because it doesn't need to be huge. It just needs to be methodical and quite well thought out in terms of how do I quickly convey my message as easily as possible to make sure that people know what's going on? So this could be something as simple as adding in, turning off your current cart abandonment flow when you enter in to the period, right? Creating a new cart abandonment flow where the first step is a plain text email, and then the second step is an SMS. So it's not about getting a new graphic designer in. It's, hey, Chantel, I just wanted to let you know that for the next couple days, this product is actually 30% off or is 20% off. I'm so excited, blah, 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 boom. Short, succinct, easy, will help drive a conversion for you in a time where there's just going to be noise. And then the last thing that I have to talk about is, what are you doing to be prepared for the hangover? No matter what, you are going to have a hangover. It's just the truth, right? Everyone knows you're on sale. Take the hangover period as the win because you know that you've got a little bit of warehouse time where sales are going to dip off a little bit. But we actually have a shorter dispatch and shipping cutoff than we normally do with other years because of where Christmas kind of falls. So what can you do to invigorate audiences, to get them on board so that you can be prepared for your hangover? So during this hangover period, it might be about pulling back ad spend, shifting toward education. It might be about focusing then on really seasonal products, whether it's gifting opportunities, whether it's really strategic bundling, or maybe you have particular products that, like if you're a fashion brand, are really great for, silly season, event, etc. It's now shifting to whatever psychological reasons people are going to be purchasing. They're going to be purchasing for gifting. Not everything, not every brand is a gift. Fashion brands is going to be really hard for you, right? I am not going to buy 95% of my girlfriend's clothing. It's too hard. I might buy them a gift voucher, but I like having something they can open, so it's highly unlikely. But I will buy myself multiple things to wear because guess what? I have multiple events coming up and I need to be reminded because I've just been shopping for everybody else. If you are a beauty brand, what a great way to start educating on rituals and, way for you to either invest in your own skincare routine or a really great way to gift because beauty is an excellent gifting opportunity, especially for people who are overwhelmed, stressed out, don't have enough time for themselves. And, I'm sure that there's a lot of other categories here, but you need to shift to different messaging so that the customer has a reason to purchase from you at full price. You also then could create audiences based on the engagements that you have to where if you have somebody that visited your site during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, maybe you hit them a couple days later with an exclusive offer because there was a reason they didn't convert. Maybe they didn't get paid in time. Maybe they completely forgot. Maybe they were overwhelmed. If you still feel as though you want that audience to convert, maybe it's just about running a really nice small segmented offer really privately. Like during the hangover period, look at who didn't convert and what data you have and think about what I can do to get this person over the line. It generally isn't a more aggressive discount. It could just be more education. It could be extending the offer just for them, or it could be a gift with purchase. Maybe it's early access to our new product drop. Like you know what you have available and you know what your audience and community love. So make sure that you're playing into their love languages. So these were all kind of a couple different strategies and things that I think you should be looking for in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, things that I'm not really hearing people talk about as much, except for some of those, great things that I kind of took from the social lab. Shout out to, again, Kim and Aaron, because I adore them and I've worked with them now for I think we were realizing it was like the last 7 years, and it's just been such a fun ride during that time. But I wanted to go over Smash or Pass because I actually have quite a few of those that, can really fall into this because Black Friday and Cyber Monday, they are chaotic, right? And there's so many things that look like quick wins and silver bullets. And I'm really over the silver bullets. I love quick wins. I love low hanging fruit, but I'm literally at the point to where I think sometimes with a silver bullet, the only thing you're going to shoot is yourself. And it's just really not worth it. So, the first one that I have for Smash or Pass is sneaky VIP early access email lists. Absolutely smash. The reason that I say smash is because we are in an era where more than ever, data acquisition is going to be so important, as well as driving a sense of urgency. So, being able to offer somebody something VIP, even if it's only an hour, if it's 2 hours, whatever the timeline is, actually offering something unique is giving you a point of difference and means that you know actually who's interested in your product. Not only can you retarget these people down the line, but you now have email lists of people who are so interested that they wanted to give you their details. And so now you just need to figure out how to make them convert. The next is mystery discount codes. So this is something that Princess Polly actually does really well. And it's so funny because I always know that the discount's basically going to be the same. Depending on what it is, it's going to be 20%, maybe it's 25. I think one or two I've gotten a lucky 30% as someone who is probably 20 years older than their ideal customer. I love a mystery discount code. Do you know what it does as well? It gets them on their website because they want to know what the discount code is. And then guess what you can do? You can retarget them. And they've had to add something to cart, which means you need to retarget them with broad DPA, which generally is going to give you a higher return on ad spend. The next smash or pass is influencer led sale previews. I love these. I love these so much. If you are choosing the right influencer for your community and for your audience, letting their audience know in advance is literally like their sneaky way of making sure that their audience gets taken care of because everyone hates it when things go and sell out. And I'm really hoping that everybody has a huge sellout Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So the people who have created really great, rapport for you, give them a little bit of early access. Allow their audiences to be sold on what's happening. You can even do it with a lead gen component. Like maybe it's like, hey guys, subscribe here or do this or do that. Like there are so many ways that you can do this. I love these because all of these actions keep everything fun and conversational, and like it's a little bit more fun. And then here's just like the last couple of things that I think really just kind of give me the ick. And I just want to share things that I think are absolute passes. So one of them is false urgency. So it's the only 2 hours left, etc. One, I think from an energy perspective, that's a really desperate play on things. And I know sometimes you will feel desperate. This is your business, it's everything for you. But if you sell out of something on a Monday, and then 3 days later it's restocked, sometimes it's going to be real, but also it will eventually create distrust with your customers, so it's really not worth it. Also, some of the flashing things where it's like 2 left in stock, blah 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 blah, those can feel very like drop shippy scammy at this point, because those are tools that are currently being used by, fake websites, which there are so many of them. The next one is deep discounts that undercut where you want your brand to go. And to me, that's an absolute pass. Portions of your catalog that you know are dead stock, mark them down. Alternatively, if you want to do a really big discount on it, you can mark it down during Boxing Day, because Boxing Day you can do a really good sale period and it can be really aggressive, or you can do a warehouse sale, and none of those things damage brand equity. And sometimes you do need to get rid of stock, because guess what? We're never going to make the right decision all the time. It's really normal. Sometimes we order too much, sometimes we order off season, sometimes we've just really failed and it just wasn't a good concept. Like those things are going to happen, right? But don't discount your entire brand really aggressively because of a couple core SKU problems. Find a more creative solution to get past that. These 2 things that I was like, absolutely like pass, don't go for them. Those are things that you should be thinking about thoughtfully, because this positions yourself as a business leader who is thinking about things thoughtfully and not reactively. There's always a time to be reactive. But if you feel as though you're constantly being reactive, then it could just be that you don't have as much advanced insight and intimacy with your numbers, and that's going to catch up to you. This period is going to be really tiring, and it's going to be something that absolutely happens. It happens every year. So when people stress out about it, like when people stress out about sale period, I'm like, why are we stressed? We've been doing this every single year, literally since the dawn of retail. And because we're online, we don't have to wake up like at 3 o'clock in the morning to wait in line to get things anymore. We can just like roll out of bed and get it when we feel like it. Like I remember I was probably like 7 or 8, waiting in line for like Beanie Babies and Furbies and like every new freaking thing that I was into and that my grandmother supported. And we don't live in that world anymore. So guess what? We can pre-schedule everything and flick on a banner, and as long as you have the strategy in beforehand, it's not stressful. We just get to watch the excitement of the sales come through, and our audience is growing, and our people, absolutely loving the products and the work that we've put in all year. So I hope that you have gotten something out of today's episode. I know it feels a little bit of rapid fire in terms of me throwing those things at you, but right now it is about what are those quick things that we can get on board. I really appreciate you listening in. Again, if you want to hear more, I highly recommend subscribing to this podcast on Spotify as well as on Apple Podcasts. You can follow me on Instagram on Chantel Brayley and If You Know You Grow. And also, you can now join the waitlist for our first ever in real life event. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to feel really on brand. And, Out of Office is going to be a series that I want to do more of, but this is going to be our first ever to kick off the wrap of this first season. Have an amazing week, and I can't wait to be back next week.